If you could be any superhero in the world, who would you be? Jesus? Oh, well, good. That's a good answer. Jesus. Unfortunately, I'm thinking of like the ones that we shouldn't strive to be. But, you know, when I was younger, and I was 8 years old, if I was asked that question, I can guarantee that I would have said Spider-Man. 100%. We had these trees in our front yard that were kind of grouped together, and I would climb up one, and then I would jump from one tree to the next. I'm sure my mom never saw that. She would not have been very happy if she did. But there's all these wonderful superheroes out there. You know, there's Spider-Man, and there's Iron Man, there's Batman. I think a lot of us can agree one of the best is Superman. I mean, come on. Who doesn't want to fly? Shoot fire from your eyes. Have I convinced you yet, Lilia? Super strong, super strength. Imagine you on the soccer field with that super strength. You'd be awesome. You're already good, but Superman would be great. But imagine for a moment, you woke up tomorrow morning and you had all of Superman's powers. Would that make you Superman? Would you be just like him? I think all of us would like to believe that if we had some superhuman ability like these comic book heroes, that we would act like they did. Because there's an inherent goodness that they have. That once they have these special abilities and these powers, that they automatically make themselves available to the people. They recognize that these gifts and these powers and these abilities that they've been given are meant to be used at the service of others, to help save people from all of the things, whether it's natural disasters or evil. They're meant to be used for the sake of the other. When we think about that question, what would you be like Superman if you had his powers? I think the real answer is no. You'd be you, just with powers. So whatever type of person you are, that's the type of person you'd be with those powers. Really what I'm getting at is there's this wonderful quality that these superheroes possess in these stories. There's a radical availability. They make themselves available for the service of others. In light of that, I just thought about, that came to mind because of our second reading from St. Paul. Here's what St. Paul says. To each individual, the manifestation of the Spirit is given for some benefit. In other words, the Holy Spirit is poured out upon us so that we can be a force for good in our world, so that we can benefit others. The reason we're given the gift of the Spirit is not for us personally to hold on to. It's to be an agent of change, to bring God into the world, and all of that means. And we see this dynamic very well in our gospel. So here we have this gospel. We know it well. We've heard it already once this Easter season. Here the apostles, they're in the upper room. They're afraid because they think they might die like Jesus did because they're his followers. They're also ashamed, right, because of their sin of abandoning Christ at the cross. What's the biggest problem with their decision to lock themselves in the upper room? The biggest problem with it is they've made themselves unavailable. They have literally done the last thing they're supposed to do, which is instead of serving God's people, they're now hiding in an upper room. They're no longer available when they're supposed to be. And then Jesus shows up and he does the Jesus things. He does the amazing things that I agree. We should all want to be like Jesus. He is the best. He is the real superhero. He's the God-man who has showed up. And he shows up to the apostles. And the first and most important thing is just the mere fact that he's alive. I have the greatest power in the world because not even death can control me. He's alive. Not only that, he heals the apostles. He heals them from their wounds, from their sins. And then he gives them this great gift. He gives them the power of the Holy Spirit. Now imagine for a moment, is the mere fact that they're given the Holy Spirit what makes them great evangelists? No. Because they still have a choice to make. They still have to decide, are they going to remain afraid locked up in this upper room? Or are they now going to take this Spirit that they've received, that Jesus has breathed on them? Are they going to take this Spirit and go out into the world? And gratefully, they chose to be available. They chose to leave the room, and they went out. And that's what we've been hearing about all Easter season in the book of Acts, about the amazing acts of the apostles. St. Peter himself raised someone from the dead. He imitated Christ. He showed that he had Christ's power by his actions. The other apostles were also able to heal people, just like Jesus healed people. They were doing it too. And of course, we know today, what did they do? They gave the Holy Spirit to the church. In our first reading, 3,000 people joined the church that day, just in response to hearing St. Peter's preaching. The Holy Spirit was poured out not just on the apostles, but on all of them. Well, here's the question for us today. How can we be like the early church? And here's a problem. I think the problem is that many of us look at the apostles of the early church, the early saints, and all saints, like superheroes. This is what I mean. We look at them like superheroes because they have all these great abilities to do these amazing, powerful things of God's love in our world. I don't have that power. I don't have that ability. The reality is, my friends, we do. It's not that whether or not God has given us the gift. It's whether or not we're willing to use the gift. And my friends, the gift is the Holy Spirit, which has been poured out upon all of us. We're going to celebrate that today for William, how he will be anointed with the Holy Spirit in baptism. But all of us have been commissioned to be bold witnesses, just like the apostles were bold witnesses in Acts. We're called to be bold witnesses by our confirmation. So my prayer for us this morning, as we celebrate this great feast of Pentecost, is to not just be Catholic, but to be super Catholic. To be filled with the grace of the Holy Spirit in such a way that we allow God's wisdom to give us courage and strength to go out into the world and boldly proclaim Jesus Christ is alive and he has come to heal you. May we have that same confidence that the apostles had, that same courage, same wisdom to go out anointed by the Spirit to say Jesus Christ loves you. And may many, many more come to believe in the church, not just then, but today.